Where's my spec?
It does seem like evening.
He's a socio-anthropologist founding, a member of Anthropotech Ateliers, Qatar. Okay? Yeah, so his title will be a material culture, immaterial culture, and bamboo materiality. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
The floor is yours.
All of you who are here physically and mentally, you are my heroes. This has been a very rigorous morning, so good on you. I know I am the last obstacle before your lunch, so I will respect your time. I've got my lunch, my watch here. I'll keep an eye on it. I am a Canadian transplanted from the flat prairies, the wheat fields, to the flat sands of Qatar, which is where I met my friend Johan, who's a Swede who had been previously in Papua New Guinea. And together the two of us have worked on a variety of projects, combining my area of interest with his area of interest, my skills with his skills. And so I think I may be the only social scientist here, I'm not sure. But quite probably. One more. Great. And what we have to touch on relates, of course, to entrepreneurship, to farming, to everything else, but from a slightly different angle. This is Qatar. For those of you who are not aware, just a little bit of a background. It's a very tiny little peninsula with one major city, which is what it looks like now. You've heard of FIFA. This is where FIFA was happening. This shows a bit of the change over time. I know when I was hired, they said, you know what, we've had higher education here for literally just a few decades, and you could have a personal handle on helping grow higher education in this country. It was very, very exciting. And I've been there now for 15 years. Qatar is a former British protectorate. As you know, there's a high income there, mostly from liquid natural gas, but they are changing. They're aware that that doesn't last forever, and they're now moving toward what they call a knowledge economy, which is part of what we do. They have Education City. Most places, if you have a university, there are various colleges, right? College of Law, College of Arts, College of whatever. In Qatar, they have Education City, where every college is in fact a different university. For engineering, it's Texas A&M. For medicine, it's Will Cornell. For art and design, it's where we work, Virginia Commonwealth University. We were the first to be invited over in 1998. We've just celebrated 25 years. This is our recent convocation. Here's a bit of the layout. So it's a big area. This is our university, Virginia Commonwealth University. This, in fact, actually was an addendum. When I was first hired in 2008, that's where I parked my car. Now we park outside. So, I'd like to talk a little bit about material culture and immaterial culture. I'm a more, Johan is an architect and a designer. I'm a more traditional academic. And I'm not here to lecture and bore you with a bunch of material, hopefully, but just so you have a sense of some of the history as to where we even get this from. The first anthropological writing on material culture has been traced down to this guy, who talked about the evolution of culture in 1875. Now, he was a lieutenant general, a military man, and so his area of interest was in the evolution of weaponry. How do we change weaponry year by year by year? And of course, you can also look at that cross-culturally, because the weapons are a vast array when you look cross-culturally. Second writing we can talk about that's recognizable is Dr. Glassy, who says, we live in a material culture, we depend on it, we take it for granted, which we all do, right? As my designer friends would say, everything is designed. What you are sitting on was designed. What we're sitting in was designed. Our electricity was designed. Everything was designed. All of this is material culture of one form or another. What I wear, what you wear, the microphone, my glasses. And as often mentioned, good design is invisible. It's only when you notice it that it's a problem. And that's the same thing with material culture. So then we get into immaterial culture. Clifford Geertz, big name there, who talks about art forms that generate and regenerate, but there's great subjectivity, and I'll talk more about this in just a moment. A lot of what is immaterial, what is intangible, is inside. My definition of reality is not the same as yours. I had a friend one time who said, How does she and her husband both deal with feminism? She says, well, it's like this. She says, everyone in the room sees this from a slightly different angle. You all see the same thing, but everybody has a slightly different take on it. You see something slightly different, and that's how she and her husband both address feminism. And I like that metaphor for life. My experiences growing up, my education, my understandings, my interpretations, all of which are very different from yours, impact how I understand reality, just as yours impact how you understand reality. There are shared realities, right? We all try and drive in the same lane, but there are differences also, and that comes directly into marketing bamboo. So, George Herbert Mead, founder of symbolic interactionism, or often at least attributing the foundership, talks about symbols. And that's a lot of what this conversation has been today, right? That's a lot of what this building is today. It's a symbol. What does it symbolize? How does it symbolize these things? What does it mean to you? What does it mean to me? What does it mean to your potential clients? I didn't intend for this to be a marketing talk, and that's really not my focus, but all of these things line in together. Culture has to recognize when it interweaves with another culture. When McDonald's went to Brazil, they had to change what they did. When the A&W, Canadian fast food franchise, came to Qatar, they had to change what they did, etc. One of the biggest selling breakfast burgers for the A&W is the bacon and egger. Guess what is not sold in Qatar? Now we have beef bacon, so it's different. But everything from the words we speak, our language, our values, the gestures, this in Italy means one thing, this in Qatar means something very different. It's not uncommon that a driver will do this to you in Qatar. He's not telling you off. What he's saying is, take it easy, slow down, shui. This symbolizes a seed that will grow. And so when someone does this to you in traffic, they're not being nasty. They say, hey brother, let's just slow down a little bit. It's actually kind of sweet, I think. So, just to kind of summarize, we have physical objects, we have immaterial objects. They are all part of our culture. We live with them 24/7. And sometimes we run into problems. It can be as subtle as a conversation with somebody where you both say exactly the same things and you're both in exactly the same culture and you know each other very well and you walk away with completely different understandings of what was just said. I'm sure we've all had that as human beings. Now you translate that across cultures, across age groups, across whatever. So, let us focus now more specifically on our guest of the day's bamboo. Denotations are the literal definitions, and this will come up, here's a promo, in our documentary later on today. The denotation is the literal definition. So if we look at the denotation of concrete, here's a definition. It's a hard, strong building material. And I think we all pretty much understand that. The connotation is different. The connotation is the cultural understanding, the emotional understanding. How do we look at concrete versus how do we look at something else? It's the idea, hard, strong, durable, accessible, it's Western, it's standard. And that's important because whether it's concrete or steel or glass, these things are recognized as viable, proven materials. Let's take a look at a quote. Concrete's a popular material for many construction applications. These properties make it sturdy and long-lasting. And there's the source of the quote, easy mix concrete, so it's basically marketing. But it's easy for them because the Western culture, for sure, has been so deeply immersed in concrete, one might say, it's very understandable. It's an easy soundbite. Here's one of the big problems in transmitting what we know of bamboo to other cultures, particularly in the West. If you want to get into the Western market, for example, Edward Said's work on Orientalism. The Orient is an integral part of European material civilization and culture, but it is not respected. And I think we all know that. When's the last time somebody talked about bamboo? Outside of this august organization and folks like yourselves, how do people think of bamboo? And I'm not disrespecting bamboo, I'm just asking, how is it typically referred to? Where do you see it? We've got the literal definition, the denotation, a variety of woody, arborescent grasses, etc., etc. Everybody's talked about that all day. You know that far better than I do. And the connotations, okay, well, we know bamboo will bend. They're famous, the famous Japanese saying, right? We know it's breakable. We know it's cheap. We know it's tacky. We know it's oriental. And we know it's inferior. Where do you see bamboo? Tiki bars, right? Little lamps. Now you can buy bamboo bowls, bamboo toothbrushes, which is actually kind of a good thing. Because you can change connotations. Cultures evolve all the time. Every culture does. You can change connotations. You can change how we live, how we see the world. When I was a kid, nobody used seatbelts. That would have been crazy. Gasoline was cheap. Everybody drove everywhere. Everybody smoked, right? There are still ashtrays on airplanes. I don't know why they built them that way. But the whole idea was, okay, if you sit over here, non-smoking, you sit over there for smoking. And that was safe. Here are some of the major sources of social change. Population growth. All of that research on the baby boomers is all about this, right? You did not have to be a very good songwriter or singer to get really rich and famous in the 60s because there were so many teenagers who would buy your records. And that's just the reality. Blue jeans became a huge industry. Culture and technology, the natural environment, we see that now with climate change, social conflict. This is some research on how you can change a culture deliberately. My doctorate years ago was on changing organizational culture within an institution. And there's a ton of research on that. And it's the same thing as trying to change a larger culture. It's doable, it happens all the time. The thing is, how can we work with that in a mindful and deliberate way? What can you and I do? Here are a couple of simple points. Role modeling, right? Getting out there, wearing bamboo clothing. I have friends who wear hemp clothing. Using bamboo products, talking about bamboo in a knowledgeable, informed way. Everything you're doing right here, right? Understand the power of leaders. Top-down change doesn't work very well. It has to involve both sides. But you need the support of the top. Build relationships. Running around and picking fights with people and being antagonistic about, if you don't use bamboo, you're ruining the world and you should be ashamed of yourself. Well, that's not going to win any favors. It's about connection instead. Building relationships, teaching people to listen so they can understand what you're saying. This conference today is a prime example of a successful way to move the bamboo industry into the rest of the world, in the non-bamboo world. Contact with another culture has tremendous impact. We see that all the time. When you go into some country, not in the West, people wearing Western clothing. I come from small town northern Saskatchewan, right? Where little, 14, 15-year-olds who've never been outside their small town are walking around dressed like Los Angeles gangbangers and using all the slang they see in the movies. Cultures impact one another. And if we understand that, we can do that. That's the whole point. A couple of references and my thank you.